You are already dead. The air in the cellar is not breathable. It's chewable. Each breath is like a gulp of rotten water. Around you are 100 bodies, yet not a sound except for the raspy gasps and gurgling of a wound in the corner. The skin on your ribs is like parchment on a drum, taut, gray, cracked. You reach for a mug. The water is murky, smelling of rotten cabbage and copper. Drink it, and it's dysentery. Don't drink it, and it's death in 3 days. There is no choice, only the speed of torment. The castle is not a sanctuary. It's a trap. Walls a meter thick hold not the enemy, but your own decay. Archaeologists find the bones of defenders. No trace of a sword, but signs of exhaustion, rotten teeth, and intestines ravaged by bacteria. 78% died not from arrows, but from their own feces contaminating the well. Imagine your bread, black, mixed with sawdust, with mold scraped off with a knife, yet still eaten. Your ration, 1,200 calories, less than a modern cat's. Your body begins to consume itself, first muscles, then internal organs. Your brain operates in power-saving mode, leading to paranoia. Every neighbor is a traitor, every rustle an enemy scout. But the real enemy is in your mug, in your gut, in your sweat. Would you survive? No. Not even if the walls withstood 1,000 assaults. Not even if the gates remained unbroken. Because a siege isn't a battle. It's a slow shutdown of the body, like a phone running out of battery. First, the light in your eyes fades, then your thoughts, then your pulse. Now, look at your hands. Imagine them trembling from hunger. Your tongue stuck to the roof of your mouth. The taste of clean water, a forgotten memory. This is the truth of the Middle Ages. Not knights, not honor, but hunger gnawing at you from within as you sit in a safe stone tomb. And yes, you are already dead. You just haven't fallen yet. The commandant stands by the storehouse. In his hands, the last sack of grain rustles like bones. He hasn't eaten in 2 days, giving his rations to the wounded. His fingers tremble, not from fear, but from the emptiness inside. Yesterday, he cut rations to 300 grams per person, black bread with sawdust, with mold that wasn't even scraped off. Today, he knows the supplies will last 14 days, not counting the rats, which consume a third. Down in the barracks, the soldiers don't rise. Their eyes are sunken, their skin gray like ash after a fire. One tried to stand this morning, fell, and couldn't lift his own body. Muscles melt like wax over a candle. Women look at bread as if it were gold. A month ago, they threw crust to dogs. Now, every piece is a cause for a fight. Anyone asking for more is a traitor. Imagine, your ration is 300 grams of bread and half a liter of sour beer, totaling only 1,200 kilocalories. For comparison, your body needs 2,500. In just 21 days, your body will start consuming itself. First your calves, then your shoulders, then your diaphragm. You'll stop walking, then thinking. Cognitive functions drop by 40%. Your brain is like a restaurant menu with no dishes, just empty lines. Why did supplies always run out sooner? Because medieval calculations were fantasies. Commandants calculated 200 people, 300 grams, 60 days. But peasants, servants, and refugees poured into the castle. No one kept count. In the siege of Calais, the garrison grew from 2 to 5,000 in 2 weeks. Grain rotted in cellars, 90% humidity. Water for grinding flour? None. Wells dried up. Cisterns were only for drinking. Logistics were blind, but hunger was not. Would you survive? No. Not even if the walls held, not even if the enemy retreated. Because hunger isn't just the absence of food, it's the slow erasure of a person. First strength, then memory, then will. Only trembling remains, and one instinct, to last another hour. But even if you overcame hunger, something worse awaited you. Because there was no clean water in the castle, only cisterns filled with rain and feces. There were no toilets, no sewage systems. Cellars were overflowing with bodies, and the drinking water was the same as the flush water. Every gulp was Russian roulette, and the bullet was dysentery. Thomas scoops water. The mug is warm. The water is murky, with floating threads of slime and the smell of rotten liver. He drinks, not because he wants to, but because his tongue can no longer move. Yesterday, he saw horse entrails thrown into the cistern. Today, a dead soldier. No one bothered to pull him out. Why? Water is gold, and gold doesn't quench thirst. In 2 days, Thomas will start vomiting, then bloody diarrhea. His body will leak onto the stone floor. He will die, clutching his stomach like a mother embraces her child. Others will step over him. There are no funerals, just new corpses on old ones. He didn't know he wasn't drinking water. He was drinking Shigella dysentery, a bacterium that killed more people than all the catapults of the Middle Ages combined. Would you drink it? Yes, because thirst is stronger than fear. Your brain shuts down reason and activates instinct. You would gulp it down, and in 72 hours, your body would begin to merge with the floor. Dysentery isn't a disease, it's a human leakage, drop by drop, liter by liter, until emptiness. There were no toilets in the castle, only buckets, cellars, and corners. People defecated wherever they stood. Rain ran off the roofs directly into the cisterns, but on its way, it washed feces from the parapets, rotten food remnants, rat droppings, and pus from wounds. The water became a soup of death. Paleopathologists examining graves beneath Harlech found traces of chronic diarrhea in the bones of 92 out of 100 deceased. Calcium was leached out, teeth crumbled, bones became chalk-like. The garrison wasn't starving, it was dissolving. Imagine, you drink from a communal barrel. 300 people share it. One is sick. The next day, 30 are. A week later, 200. The walls don't save you. They trap you with the killer. In the siege of Calais, the French held out for 11 months. The English lost fewer men than the defenders did to their own water. 3 dysentery deaths for every one from an arrow. 3 to 1. Statistics don't lie. Water is poison. Your body is craving a sip right now. But in the Middle Ages, there was no clean water. Only a choice: drink and die slowly, or don't drink and die quickly. You would choose slowly. Everyone chose slowly. But dysentery is just the prologue, because in the cellar, where corpses lie, where the air is thick with decomposition, where rats scurry over the faces of the sleeping, something worse is born. It makes no sound. It has no smell. It simply arrives and kills dozens in a week. Plague. Yersinia pestis. A bacterium injected by a flea jumping from a dead rat onto your neck. You will wake up with black spots on your skin, and you will not wake up again. Look here. Your safety is an illusion. Walls don't protect, they preserve death. And the enemy doesn't even need to break down the gates. They wait. You will die on your own, from water, from fear, from the neighbor who drank from the same mug as you. In the cellar of Calais, the first dead man lies. His skin is covered in black spots. His eyes are glassy. His mouth in a silent scream. Next to him, silence. Only a rattle. Only a tremor. No one approaches. Because everyone knows it's the plague. Yesterday he shared bread with you. Today, he's a corpse. Tomorrow, 3 will die. Then 9. Then 27. Would you have escaped before the plague? No. The gates are locked. The walls are not a defense. They are the boundaries of a grave. The density is 50 people per square meter. Like an elevator packed with bodies. No windows, no ventilation, no chance. Fleas jump from corpse to living person, at night. When everyone sleeps huddled together. Water is communal. Bread is communal. Fear is communal. The immune system is broken. Cortisol is 4 times above normal. T cells are silent. The body is an open door for death. 1 infects 3. 3 infect 9. 9 infect 27. Mathematics doesn't lie. It kills. The Chronicles of Jean Froissart. Those who fled before the plague survived. The rest disappeared. 5,000 entered Calais. 1,000 left. The English did not storm. They waited. Plague and hunger were their best soldiers. 80% of the dead did not die by the sword. They died in the darkness, with black ulcers, with empty eyes. Archaeologists found skeletons. 83% showed traces of plague and exhaustion. 2 killers, 1 victim. But the plague is not the end. It only opens the door. When the body weakens, the mind cracks. A neighbor is not a friend. He is a threat. He might steal your bread. He might be a traitor. He might be the next to die and infect you. Trust is a luxury for the well-fed. Here, it is dead. Like water in the cistern. Like the last piece of bread. Like you in 3 days. Imagine, you are hiding in a corner, trembling. Not from the cold, from the thought, who's next? Your heart beats faster. Your palms are sweating. You look at the one breathing next to you and think, what if he's already infected? Would you survive? No. Not because the plague is stronger, but because the walls don't save you. They lock you in with it. Forever. Look here. Your safety is an illusion. The plague doesn't storm. It enters through the door you closed yourself. The commandant stands in the inner courtyard. Rain runs down his helmet like tears on a dead man's face. Before him, a servant kneels, his hands bound with a rope of rotten hemp. Someone whispered. He signaled from the tower with a lantern. A signal to the enemy. No proof, only fear, thick as porridge in a pot. But the commandant raises his hand. The executioner strikes. The body falls. A dull thud, wet cobblestones, and silence, thick, sticky. People avert their eyes, because everyone thinks, what if that were me? Would you survive? No, not because you would be executed, but because you would betray others yourself, to get an extra piece of bread, to deflect suspicion, to simply survive. In a siege, conscience is the first luxurious corpse. Siege psychology is the amygdala in fire mode. The brain shuts down empathy. It turns on suspicion. You look at your neighbor and see a threat, not a person, a threat. The Harlech Chronicles. 2 soldiers accused each other of treason. Both wanted rations. Both died a week later, from dysentery. But before that, they tore at each other with their teeth. Empathy levels drop by 60%. Your heart stops beating for others, only for you. What if that were me? In the medieval treatise, De Re Militari, it's stated in black and white. Fear more the whispers within the walls than the roar of the ram outside. Irony? No. Insight. The execution of an innocent person is not a mistake. It's an explosion. Discipline cracks. Trust evaporates. In a day, desertion. In 2, rebellion. In 3, the gates open not to the enemy, but to chaos. Imagine, you are hiding in the shadows. You hear someone whisper your name. Your heart stops. Your palms sweat. You think, he knows? But he doesn't know. He just wants you to be silent, until he himself becomes the next one. Sometimes the traitor was real. Didn't shout, didn't rebel, just waited. At night. When everyone slept, he went to the gates, a key in his hand, the very one he was given as the chief keymaster. Trust was his weapon. The walls were his accomplices. Your safety is an illusion. Walls don't protect against betrayal. They only make it final. Look here. Would you survive? No. Because in a siege, you are either a traitor or a victim. There is no third option. Night. The moon. A pale eye watching the castle. Wind drives dry leaves across the courtyard, rustling like the whispers of the dead. Everything sleeps, or pretends to. At the eastern gate, where the shadow is densest, a man stands. The keymaster. In his hand, a lantern covered with a rag. 3 short flashes. A pause. 3 more. From behind the hill, 2 fires. An answer. In 3 nights, the gates will open. Not from a ram, not from fire. Simply, open. He thinks of coins, of a new life. He doesn't know that the guard from St. George's Tower has already noted his silhouette. He doesn't know that in a week, his head will hang on the wall, as a warning. Would you have noticed him? No. You would be sleeping, like everyone else. Imagine, you lie on the straw. You hear footsteps. Quiet. Too quiet for the night. Your heart stops. Your palms are sweating. You think, just a rat. But it's not a rat. It's a man holding more in his pocket than you've seen in your entire life. 3 months' wages, and he'll give you the castle. Entirely. Without a single sword. Without a single cry. The besiegers didn't like assaults. An assault meant death for 1 in 3. But bribery. Bribery was silence. It was cheap. It was almost risk-free. 55% of castles fell not from walls, but from a key. From one man who decided his life was worth more than an oath. Do you think the enemy is out there, beyond the moat? Mistake. He's already inside. In the siege of Calais, they held out for 11 months. The walls didn't break. The moat wasn't breached. A stable hand simply opened the gates. For a sack of silver. The garrison surrendered. Without a fight. Without losses. Except for honor. Walls don't protect against greed. They don't save from despair. They only hide the traitor in the shadows. Until he decides, enough. Your body is tense right now. You look at your neighbor. He is silent. But what if he has already made a deal? What if the gates are open tomorrow morning? Would you trust him? No. Because in a siege, trust is the first corpse. And it already lies at your feet. But what if there is no traitor? What if everyone is loyal? Then the besiegers roll out Plan B. Wood, iron, catapults, rams. Sounds terrifying? In reality, it's theater. Noise, dust, smoke. But the walls stand. And inside, silence. And in that silence, bread rots. Water becomes murky. And your neighbor looks at you with empty eyes. Because real death doesn't knock on the gates. It's already sitting next to you. And waiting for you to fall asleep. An underground tunnel, the air, thick like slime. 3 soldiers dig a countermine. Shovels scrape against clay. Drops of water fall from the ceiling. Plink, plink, plink. Like the pulse of a dying man. Suddenly, stop. One freezes. Before him, fresh earth. And a smell, garlic, sour beer, sweat. Someone else's sweat. The enemy is near. In the darkness. Would you hear his breathing? No. You would have already suffocated from fear. You think siege weapons are the main killer? Mistake. Catapults are theater. Loud, dusty, useless. Walls 2 meters thick withstood 300 blows. Archaeologists find towers riddled, but standing. Rams? They were covered with rat traps. Wooden shelters that turned into torches from a single cauldron of boiling tar. Undermining? Weeks of work. And everything collapses if the garrison placed a barrel of water on the floor. Ripples betray the enemy. Medieval engineers knew. A wall doesn't fall from a stone. It falls from time. And time is hunger's ally. 80% of sieges ended before the first blow. Before the first crack in the stone. Before the first fragment of a tower. Castles surrendered when there was no grain left in the granaries. When only sludge of feces and blood sloshed in the cisterns. When soldiers couldn't lift their swords, hands trembling from hypoglycemia. You look at the catapult and tremble. But death is already in your gut, in the form of bacteria, in the form of a black ulcer on your neck, in the form of a neighbor who just stole your bread. Calais. 5,000 entered, 1,000 left. Not from walls, Not from rams, from the emptiness inside, from water that smelled of corpses, from bread with more sawdust than flour, siege weapons, a diversion. The real war wasn't at the gates. It was in the stomach, in the brain, in the heart that stopped believing. The walls will stand. The traitor is silent. The catapult is broken. But this is not salvation. It is merely a reprieve. Because inside, the last battle has already begun. The body against itself. In the corner of the tower sits a soldier. His eyes are empty. His pupils like those of a dead man. He is not sleeping. He is not thinking. He is simply waiting for his heart to stop. From cold. From hunger. From the fact that his brain no longer receives glucose. His body has already eaten everything it could. Now it's eating his very will. Would you survive? No. You would have given up sooner. Not to the enemy. To yourself. Winter bursts into the tower like a knife to the chest. The wind howls through the cracks. Not a sound, but a wail. The soldier leans against the stone. His fingers are black. His skin has cracked. Gangrene gnaws at his fingers like a rat gnaws a bone. He doesn't tremble. Trembling is a luxury. His body has already burned all its fat, all its muscles, everything that could provide warmth. Now it only warms his heart. The rest is dead weight. His pupils are dilated from hypoglycemia. His brain, a blank screen. He tries to remember his wife's face, sees only a gray fog, the last sip of water, with mold, with sediment resembling clay. His eyes close on their own, not from fatigue, from relief. His body has surrendered. This is not sleep, this is a coma. Body temperature, 27 degrees Celsius. In an hour, cardiac arrest. Your body would not have endured, even if you were stronger, smarter, braver. Because cold is not an enemy. It is hunger's ally. At -5 degrees, the body spends 2,500 calories a day just on heat. And you receive 1,200. The difference is your life. Muscles melt. Immunity fades. Even a runny nose is a death sentence. Paleopathologists find skeletons, atrophy of calves, shoulders, diaphragm. People stop breathing, not from plague, but from weakness. The brain shut down everything superfluous: speech, empathy, will. You would sit in the corner, silent, not eating, not moving, just waiting, not for death, for the end. But here is a paradox that chills the blood. In 1294, 37 people survived in Harlech. The siege ended. Help arrived. They were given bread, meat, beer, and 28 died 3 days later. Their bodies, ravaged by hunger, could not tolerate the food. This is called refeeding syndrome. Imagine, your phone battery is at 0. You plug it in, and it explodes. So too, the body. After months of starvation, a sudden influx of food causes a collapse of blood phosphates. The heart stops. Medieval doctors did not know this. They thought, saved. In reality, they signed a death warrant. Would you survive? No. Even if the gates opened, even if the enemy retreated, your body would die from salvation. Imagine, you lie on the straw. You are covered with a fur coat. You are given hot broth. You drink. And 24 hours later, you suffocate. Not from illness, from the fact that your body has forgotten how to live. Hunger, cold, despair. They don't just kill. They break physiology. They make you incapable of life even after victory. Look here. You think you survived when the siege ended? Mistake. You were dying slowly. And you continued to die in warmth, with food in your hands, with hope in your eyes. Because the medieval castle did not let go. It took everything, even your right to salvation. The castle is not a sanctuary. It's a trap. Do you think the walls will save you? No. They will lock you in with hunger that gnaws at your muscles. With water that flows from the cistern like pus from a wound. With a neighbor whose gaze is no longer human, but Animalistic, hungry, treacherous. A siege is not a battle, it is a system collapse. And every part of it works against you. Supplies don't run out in a year, in 6 months. Because refugees pour into the castle. Because grain rots in damp cellars. Because rats eat a third. Because no one counts the dead, until they get in the way. You are that soldier. You stood on the wall on the first day, believed in honor, in the oath, in the bread that would be given tomorrow. But on the 42nd day, you lay down in a corner and did not get up again. Not from a wound, not from plague, from emptiness. Your body ate your diaphragm. You stopped breathing, not because you didn't want to, but because you couldn't. You were found a week later. Next to you, an empty mug. No one knew your name. No one buried you. They just stepped over you, as they stepped over everyone. The castle is not a sanctuary. It's a trap. It has no logistics, no sanitation, no trust. There is only the illusion of safety. Latrines drain into the moat. Rain washes feces into the cisterns. Dysentery kills 3 for every 1 by an arrow. Plague jumps from a rat to your neck, and in 3 days turns you into a corpse with black spots. Cold sucks out the last calories. The brain shuts down empathy. You look at a child and think, he ate my bread. Would you survive? No. Even if you became the commandant. Even if you executed everyone who blinked incorrectly. Because the system is fragile. Like a clay pot. It cannot withstand pressure, cannot withstand time, cannot withstand man. Imagine, you lie on the straw, you tremble, not from cold, from the thought that there will be no water tomorrow, that today's bread is the last, that the one breathing next to you has already made a deal with the enemy. Your heart beats faster, your palms sweat, you look into the darkness, and you don't see the enemy. You see yourself, a week from now, dead, nameless, without reason, just an empty space in the cellar. The castle is not a sanctuary, it's a trap, and you are in it, already for a long time. Now the question, would you survive longer if you commanded or obeyed? Who is stronger, the one who decides who gets bread, or the one who silently waits until thirst kills him? Write it down. But first, honestly answer yourself. Would you have endured the first week? On 1,200 calories, without hot water, in a crowd where every breath is a threat? Probably not. And that's not weakness. That's physiology. That's the truth. You are already dead. You just haven't fallen yet.